Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Philip Radukic, and I'm a product manager and senior consultant here at CI Experts, and as such responsible for the UPV web services, browser-based viewing, and associated technologies. Today, we are continuing our new webinar series concentrating on various real-life use cases. These use cases will show some examples on how the UPV ecosystem can be implemented to make processes run more smoothly and basically how to save time and effort and utilize the various features of UPV at its best. Today's part 6 of the series will be covering a topic relevant mostly to owners and operators, as well as engineering partners and contractors, or basically any project on site, and that's onboarding and training of staff. As always, this session will be recorded, and we will provide you the link to the recording subsequently by email. And also, as always, if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to use the questions panel. State your questions, and I will try to answer as many as possible of those after the live demo. So, what is our webinar today about? Let's actually take a look at the agenda. We'll have an introduction to challenges with onboarding and training, and a live demo covering onboarding contractors and new staff members, getting familiar with the assets and special requirements, maintenance training, and availability of information. So onboarding and training are two situations that are often neglected when talking about digital twins, even though especially they are needed on a daily basis. So every company has its own solutions and procedures for those, some more, some less sophisticated, but eventually the challenges are almost the same everywhere. You want anyone working in the plant to be safe and aware of the surroundings as well as possible dangers where additional caution is crucial. So we're talking about personnel, contractors, trainees, etc. Using a digital twin seems like a natural solution to do trainings in a safe environment while being able to work with a reliable digital twin of an existing asset. So these and more challenges and topics is what we're actually going to look at today. So the challenges, for example, introducing an asset to new staff members. What are the risks? Insufficient or too rigid or missing information from site. This means basically we always need to prepare some type of simple information that could be dealt out before people actually enter the plant. And this is most of the time when I say too rigid, for example, you have pre-recorded videos without any option to quickly change those or adapt those to current needs. Onboarding and projects. So we're risking, basically, if we don't have everything exactly prepared, that we're going on site with a lack of information. That could also be a safety risk. Maintenance training. So the risk here is possibly outdated or missing information or long update cycles to actually get the training done in the most efficient way and in the shortest of times. And basically not just being informed, but staying informed. So the risks are long preparations, updating oneself, missing details, and especially once a training or an onboarding is done, this information is what we have. So what are the solutions here? Well, first of all, get acquainted with the asset remotely. The effect, save on time and security risks on site. For example, all rigs. Why I'm especially mentioning all rigs, I'll come back to that directly at the end of the introduction. Get all necessary information centrally. So you have a single point of truth, have basically some type of a virtual companion on site, on and offline. This means staying informed becomes easier because you don't have only the information that you get during onboarding, but you have access to updated information at any time. Even when you're in the asset, you can still look up some additional information. Create training animations easily. The effect? Well, visualize motion and procedures, view from any angle, and by adding moving animations to a model, some procedures become a lot more clear than with mere graphics or basically instructions on paper. And identify possible risks in a digital twin. So prevent emergency by assessing risks beforehand. So before you start actually working in an asset, you can already have a look around, identify potential issues, and prepare in a better way to perform more safely. So before we get to the live demo, when I'm talking about the oil rigs, for example, saving time, this goes basically for many other plants and assets too. But in this case, I personally actually heard about a case a while ago where the workers for an oil rig needed to be transported to the oil rig by, well, obviously by helicopter, but to get to the heliport, they needed to cross actually a dangerous area. So they had basically a military escort accompanying them to the heliport. So it was a long and also dangerous trip to get there. So the time they spent on the oil rig is highly valuable. So what we want to do is have those people trained before they even, set off to get to the rig, not just when they arrived, because time and every hour, every minute is valuable and probably worth their weight in gold. And that's just one of the use cases here where we can basically save on time, save on cost, and gain in security and safety. But let's have a look at the live demo. So what can we do, for example, when we're onboarding contractors and new staff members? We can basically do a virtual tour of our asset. I can show people, new people around in the model. I can make them familiar with some specifics on site. For example, if you're working in this area, in case of an emergency, where do you go? Well, I could basically show them the escape routes and say, okay, if you work in this area, you can use this escape route here in case of an emergency to get out of the plant. And you don't even have to remember this because you can take the whole model with you on site, and in an emergency, at least that's my experience, sometimes information just gets lost, for example, under adrenaline, and you're actually more than happy if you have some type of information with you that will help you through that. And if you're navigating on site, online, through the model, you can also actually have some settings prepared to react in emergencies. But even beyond that, so we're talking here about the 3D model. You can as well do a virtual tour of your assets that you have laser scanned. So UPV allows laser scans in an extremely high quality to be visualized on almost any device. In this case, you can point out individual features. You can even select individual objects from a laser scan and have people get familiar and acquainted with the surroundings. So when they get into the building, they have not a 3D model, but a real-time real graphics visualization of what it looks like in the asset. So because cable trays, smaller pipes, or even some, for example, big packs are similar, will not be displayed in a 3D model, but in this case, they will be. What else can we do with a digital twin? Well, we can basically also set some predefined views as hotspots, or actually place points of interest for the task at hand. For example, if I'm training a maintenance employee, I could, for example, create a folder and saying, okay, this is your points of interest. And let me add this one here. Great. And by selecting it, I can now give it a name. For example, boost check. And basically by clicking on the point of interest here, I get to the point that I need, that I want to show. So I can also change this name here. Check first. And then add a point of interest here. Check second. I'll also go to the attributes and also give it an attribute. Okay, it's already taken the name from the files here. So now I can even search for these checks here, or say, okay, for these points of interest, I also want to save a view. Check view. So no matter where I am in the plant now, even if I get a bit confused in the model, I can use just the recall view functionality here to bring me back to the view I had previously and switch between my 2 points of interest. This way, also navigation for new employees and external contractors will become a no-brainer here. No longer searching for a long time to find a certain valve or pump or whatever. I can pinpoint it, and I can also, when I'm using a mobile device, use, for example, GPS functionality if the model is set up accordingly. So it will actually track my position in the plant and make it even easier to find a way to get to my selected object. And once I'm there, another challenge, availability of information. Well, I can click, for example, on this vessel here, and I can have equipment documentation. I can have maintenance instructions. I can have the P&IDs at hand. The most important thing is I can have this with me online or offline on my mobile device and always have all the necessary information at the fingertips. For example, layout plans. Also, if I'm getting a bit confused in the plant because I've seen, for example, some type of layout plans before, and I actually want to, well, locate myself with the help of a layout plan, no issue at all. We can also overlay layout plans here. So the staff we're training or the onboarding can use the layout plans and general arrangement plans as well for orientation. All of this saves us a lot of time and money on site. The training times are cut down significantly, while the effect of the training is at least doubled here. But what else can we do? When we're talking about training, um, I have a few animations that some of you might have seen previously, but let me show you these here. When we're training staff, for example, lockout and tagout procedures, as I've shown in a previous webinar, we can actually show training videos, what has to be done, what steps have to be taken to actually switch this control valve here. How would I do this? I create an animation where the training shows, okay, you need to shut off the left valve first, then the right one, open the small green relief valves here, and only then can you take out the control valve, replace it with a new one, put it back in, shut down the small valves, and then open up the main valves from downstream to upstream, one after the other. Very simple visualization that will help trainees get basically every single step of the exchange procedure right. This is something they can repeat. And let me just rewind. Good thing is you don't depend on the view angle, so it's not a video with a fixed view. It's a real-time animation here that can be viewed from any angle. And there's also one more animation that I can show you here. Well, actually, two more. One would be heavy lifting. So um, how can this help us? Well, we can not only prepare a certain procedure in advance, but we can also use this for training and instruction, how to actually get people having a really stick to the predefined procedures. In this case, we have a simulation how a vessel is removed. So first of all, when you get into a site with your crane, make sure it's stabilized, make sure you have enough space, and we've pre-calculated a way to do this. So please follow the pathways that were predefined in this simulation here, because then and only then we can ensure that everything is done safely and according to, well, our predefined safety definitions. This is just a few use cases here, so there might be a lot more that we could share here. Also, when we actually look at the example with the oil rig, just to visualize it, basically we can look at every detail of this rig before any single staff member is transported there, starting from the arrival at the helipad up to showing the accommodations and also showing certain work and safety procedures. So when people arrive here, they're instantly familiar with the asset and they know what to do. Let me look at the questions panel here. Will you have procedures loaded in for procedure training? Or are you tempted to also connect to control room operator training simulators for team training? Well, this all depends. Basically, we have an API that allows controlling data in UPV. This means loading as well as saving data away in real time, and this way connect also to some control room software, and this would, in a simulation environment, also allow to do some type of control room operator training. Absolutely. What modules, licenses of UPV are needed to have all the functionality I've shown today? Well, what I've shown today included actually the sketching license, 3D sketching license, and that was covering also the animation part, the saving the views, filtering for assets. That's something I can show you too quickly by preparing a view here that says, okay, asset one, and I can do training only for this asset. This can be done by views, by packages and similar, but it's except for the 3D sketching feature, it's part of the basic UPV functionality. And we also do have an attractive license model that includes basically all adapters and all features of UPV for a certain number of concurrent users. So if you would like to have additional information to that, feel free to contact our sales team, or if you don't have a sales representative, contact us directly. And we can talk this through and see which option actually suits you best. What are your latest tips for tight integration of your software to engineer information management system data? Interestingly, this question comes up almost every week, regardless of the topic of the webinar. And we're still, the best solution is using our API and have the API addressed for visualization and for integration in other management systems. And beyond that, our API is being extended or will be extended soon, so that it will offer even more control over data and visualization UPV without saying too much in advance. Great. So in case you have any questions that pop up sometime after the webinar, feel free to write directly to me or to my colleagues, support info, whichever channel you choose. I will be more than glad to have a look at your question, your possibly specific issue or challenge you're facing, and find the best solution together, how UPV can make your life at least a little bit better and improve the efficiency, and especially make you save on, in this case, probably unnecessary costs, or increase safety, security, and make onboarding and training procedures easier. So all that's left for me to say now is thanks for your time and your attention. And as I mentioned, questions you can state to any of the known email addresses. And for sales information, you can contact either the sales representative or our info address. And thanks for being here today. The next webinar will be in 2 weeks, and we'll cover the topic conceptual design. So how can UPV actually help us to do some conceptual designs before we actually start modeling in some type of authoring tool? Thanks and goodbye.